You know, years ago they did this commercial and it was about a Canadian flying trip and somebody forgot the shad wraps and all of a sudden you see the guy being hurled out of the plane and falling to the water.
Don't be the guy who forgets the Rappalos.
If you go to a Canadian fishing trip, you want to bring crankbaits, specifically Rapala shad wraps. They're really a highly efficient bait that they've made in a wide variety of different sizes. But what I'd really like to share with you is one really key to how to be more successful, not only on those trips, but how to be more successful with crankbaits. You know, a lot of times you go to a new destination, you get there, you know, you talk to the camp operators, they give you some insights on where the fish are, but you have to go out and find the fish yourself. So one of the absolute, bar none, best techniques to find and ultimately catch fish is trolling. It enables you to do a couple of different things. When I'm driving around, I'm flatline trolling, I'm looking at the habitat, looking where the bait fish concentrations are, looking where the game fish are at. That's the really key thing about it. Generally, when we go on a trip like this, we'll have a variety of different crankbait configurations. One is a regular walleye rod. This happens to be a 7-foot Icon walleye rod with 10-pound test braided 832 line, Suffix 832, fluorocarbon leader, and the classic steel shad wrap, spinning rod. I actually use this a lot. Actually, just throw it out in back of the boat and you start idling along the bank. While you're covering ground, you're looking at, you know, scoping out and looking at spots. It's just a really highly efficient means to go cover a lot of water and ultimately see what's going on in the system. That's one thing where a lot of people like to cast, drag, or drift. Trolling is an absolute phenomenal technique to find fish. Even in these fabulous Canadian lakes, you have to understand they're moving around, they're grazing around in these systems, they're vast bodies of water, there's vast areas where there are no fish. So one of the keys that trolling enables you to do is ultimately find the areas where the fish are at. That's the real key. But this spinning rod and reel combination is something that you actually just throw back in back of the boat. I can fish it down to maybe 12, 14 foot of water, depending on the bait that I'm using. And you know, if I'm going shallower, I can actually be trolling up in, you know, 6 to 10 foot of water and put a shallow lip bait on. In this particular case, I'd actually run this bait in anywhere between 8 and 12. I can really efficiently cover a lot of water. It's relatively simple. Just cast it out in back of the boat, let enough line out so I'm intermittently touching the bottom. The second one that we always bring on a lot of our Canadian trips is a trolling rod. This is an Icon trolling rod, and you'll notice I actually have a bigger shad wrap on here. This is number 9. Same thing, I have 8-pound test fluorocarbon leader, 10-pound test Suffix 832 braid. But the biggest thing is I have a line counter reel on this particular rod. And the reason for that is to be able to replicate the running depth of this bait. With braided line, it enables me to drive this bait into a lot deeper water. I can get this bait down in 22, 24 foot of water if I put out enough line. That's the real key. A lot of times in many of these lakes, these fish will suspend out in deeper basins, you know, throughout the summer months. It's just a highly efficient means to find fish. One of the biggest things is also to get on big underwater structures. We were up on Lac Seul, and it was amazing because these bars are so big. I mean, each individual bars are miles long, gigantic underwater points. And it really takes a lot of time to go find them. When you're trolling, it enables you to actually cover a lot of water and ultimately be more successful on your next trip when you go into Canada. You go up there, don't forget shad wraps.
Hey, for more information, check out visitsunsetcountry.com or call 1-800-665-7567 to get a free guide and map.